Today on Cooking with a Lion, we're making a dish where the ingredients not only go together, but they actually grow together. And it's all happening right now. Let's get started. Succotash is one of my favorite summer dishes because it comes together so beautifully and utilizes all the things that are in season. Three things in general that actually work together, so much so that when they grow together, they're known as the three sisters. Starting with the first ingredient, which is corn. The corn, it grows up nice and tall. The beans start to grow around the corn as they grow, and then the squash kind of fans out with these big, beautiful leaves covering it all, making sure that weeds don't grow. Then they're all harvested and made into this delicious dish that comes together really quickly. We're gonna start with a cold pan, and then to which we're gonna add the bacon. Now, we don't wanna add the bacon to a hot pan because it'll start to stick. Put it over medium-low heat, and we'll start to render off the fat in that bacon until it gets nice and crispy. At that point, we're gonna add some diced shallot and diced garlic. And at this point, your kitchens just start to smell really darn good. So after about 2 to 3 minutes, we're gonna move on, crank that heat up to medium-high. Then we're gonna add some of the three sisters. They're talking about the corn, some summer squash, zucchini works, anything that falls into that category, and some beans. Today I'm using lima beans, and of course some fresh herbaceousness, and that comes with some thyme. Now it's a fair amount of time, but what I did is I grabbed a little butcher's twine and tied it up so it's easier to pull out once we're done. Then we'll season it with a little bit of salt and pepper. Cook that down until it just begins to caramelize. And at that point, we're gonna add some wine with a little bit of water, some of the tomatoes, and butter. Now what happens next is magical. As it continues to cook, the liquids kind of come out, but the butter pulls it together to create this delicious sauce, and that is what we're looking for. Turn off the heat, add some fresh lemon juice and add basil, remove those thyme sprigs, stir it together, and then it's time to serve. This dish looks beautiful. It has all these wonderful summertime ingredients. You have a little bit of this sauce, so I always recommend actually serving it with a spoon. So when you get to the bottom, you're like, oh, it's just the best part, because all the different ingredients that gave all the deliciousness to this sauce comes right in the front. You can just lap every little bit up. Last thing to do is add just a little bit of fresh chives. I didn't want to cook them down because I do like that fresh, very subtle onion flavor to kind of top the whole thing off. Keep in mind it's hot, okay? Don't go crazy with a huge, big bite. Give yourself some time and then enjoy. That is worth almost burning your tongue on. The flavor just screams summertime to me. You have the corn and the flavor of that butter, those two things go together. The quintessential summertime things for me, tomato and corn, they're both in here. You have this brightness, this bright acidity that not only comes from that fresh lemon juice near the end, but also that white wine that we put in there, which brings like a floral note, that Chardonnay floral note to it. It sort of elevates it, makes it more adult. You have this sort of chew that comes through with the bacon and that smokiness that kind of haunts the back of this palate here. Those fresh vegetables. The two other sisters, of course, there's the corn, then you have the squash, and then the beans. Again, we use lima beans here, and they're cooked just so they still have some resistance to it, so it's not mushy, because the high heat actually cooked it quickly and not mushed it all out. So you have a lot of integrity in this dish. And then you have the fresh herbs. Of course, I finished it with the chives, but that basil. Summertime is basil also. It's literally summertime in a bowl. I cannot wait for you to try it. And when you do, I think you'll realize that these three sisters were always meant to stay together. Cheers.